Today we're going to be observing this flower and drawing it and dissecting it. So yeah, today we're celebrating Easter, which happens tomorrow. So this is the Easter lily, and it is native to Japan and Taiwan. And it was introduced to the U.S. And England in the late 1800s, I believe. But after the World War II, there was a blockade because, Japan was not very happy with us. So we had to find ways to grow it locally. And it just so happens that these guys are growing in this area where I live in southern Oregon and northwestern California, in a place called the Easter Lily Capital. And so that's where 95% of the lilies are growing for the U.S. Now, in nature, they grow about 3 feet tall, and they've got this flower about 6 inches long, and they're white. But there are varieties that have been cultivated that are all different colors, mainly yellows and oranges. And so anyway, we are going to sketch this and talk about it as we go. If you don't have a pencil, that's okay. You can just watch or watch the replay and join us. So just looking quickly at the anatomy, they have pretty simple leaves. They're kind of linear, and sometimes they're in whorls, and sometimes they're alternate on the stem. And then here's the stem or peduncle of the flower. Now, this is in the lily family and the Lilium genus. In fact, I do like to add what we have here, the Easter lily, and it is Lilium is this genus, and named for its flower. The length of its flower is longiflorum. But there are many species in this genus lily in North America, and just in Oregon and California where I live, there are ones called the Western lily, the fawn lily, cascade lily, avalanche lily. Many of them look similar. They might be white or yellow or orange. There's the Columbia lily, the Humboldt lily, and the tiger and leopard lily. So you might live where there's some native lilies. And I'd love to know if you're going to join us in the chat box. Yeah, tell me. Not sure if I'll be able to see those comments, but tell me if you've got a native lily where you live. So we're going to draw this, and then we're going to dissect it, because last weekend when we drew the bleeding heart and dissected it, people really seem to enjoy that. So we're going to take this flower apart, and then we're going to maybe paint it if we have time. I am using my phone today, and sometimes my phone heats up if I've got it on too long. So we'll see how it goes. I might have to log in again after it cools down. So anyway, I first just start kind of with a line to orient myself. So we're going to have the stem area here, and we're going to have a leaf coming off here, and then a leaf coming off. Actually, it's kind of overlapping where the stem is. From your angle, we don't see it. So it's important that I'm looking at the video and not at the real plant, because it looks really different angle from where I'm at. So anyway, then I try to make a line that's going to show where the flower is going to go. And I hope if you can comment, tell me. Let's see. Now, we do have a little bit more room here. Let me move this over a bit so that we can, just a moment, we can see it better. Okay, yeah, so we got room now. Tell me if there is ability for you to comment. I'd love to know if you can see this line. So then I would make it kind of like this wide, and then it's going to be kind of like this. So I just get these sort of like tri lines down, and yeah, so That's where I start. And then I just want to get rid of this first line here. That's kind of ugly. Okay, so then I will start to draw a little bit darker. And so what do we have here? So we have the stem. We just see a little bit of the whole stem. And then we have the leaf kind of over it and over the top of the flower. Because see, if we lift this up, you can see the base of the flower and the peduncle, but this happens to be right over it. Now, I might just move this. If it was up to me, I would move this out a bit so I could see the whole anatomy, but I'm just going to draw what we see. It doesn't really want to move without breaking it. So I'm just going to do that. And it's kind of coming towards me. It's a little bit foreshortened, but I'm just going to go like that. And we're just kind of going quickly as if we were in the field, which I love to teach people how to do. We're not trying to do a really picky botanical illustration here. I want to make sure you can see this. I can never tell. My video that I'm watching on the desktop computer is just a little bit behind. So now this other one, let's see, I see the edge of the leaf, and then I kind of see it going like this. And kind of going like this. You can kind of see this overlap there. There we go. Okay. And then let's do this trumpet shape. And so what we have here is 6 tepals. They're not called sepals and petals. In the lilies, the sepals and petals look alike. Now, a sepal is usually 3 to 5 leaves that kind of go around the bud of the flower. But in all the lilies, they look a lot like a petal. So we're actually going to call these tepals. So if we were going to name things here, we've got our stem, and we've got a leaf, and the peduncle or stem of the flower is kind of hidden here. And then we have the flower. And so we've got this, they overlap. So there's 3, you'll see this better when we dissect it. There's 3 sepals and 3 petals. And again, we basically call those tepals. Okie dokie. So now, this first one, it kind of comes down and then wide. And again, I've got to look at what I see. Because you guys see, yeah, it's kind of going out like this. So it's going to go like this. And then it kind of arches and kind of goes like this. And then you see it kind of curled like that. Okay. So that's on top. That means it's one of the 3 sepals. And then underneath we have the 3 petals. So our next petal we're going to draw is this one, and it's coming out kind of from the edge here. And kind of going like that. And there is sort of a ridge here on the edge. I don't know if you can really see that, but it sort of goes like, let me see again. It's this subtle ridge in the petal. And again, we'll see this better when we dissect this. And then we have some ants and things crawling on here. Alrighty. So then we have this other tepal, which is kind of on top of this here. And it's got curling up. We just see a little bit of it from this angle. And it's on top of some of this leaf. In fact, that's why it's kind of going like this. We actually it's more like going over. Yeah, this is kind of challenging to draw a really 3-dimensional structure like this, where you guys are seeing this top view, and I'm sort of seeing a side view, but I'm trying to make it more obvious. Okay, so, oh, hi, Oh, hola. Hope life is good. So glad it popped in the information to see you. Great. Thanks for joining me. ¿De dónde eres, Cici? Yo hablo un poco español. Okay, so anyway, here's the other one now. So this is another petal, because again, it's under a sepal. And so it's going to come out from under here. And it looks like it's going a little bit longer. Kind of see more of the side view here. And now it's really kind of challenging when Facebook insists on having these lives be vertical and not horizontal. So I don't have as much room as I'd like to have. Make this curl up a little bit more for fun. Okay. All righty. And then, so we've got one sepal and two petals and another petal. And again, from my angle, I see more in the inside. But you guys, let me double check. You might see a couple more here. One, two, three, four. Yeah, you might a little bit see this one. And so I could kind of put that in here. And, it might be a little bit shaded there. And then I can get rid of these other tri-lines. Okay. Now, let you catch up. Can you guys see that still? Donna. Yeah, hi. Great. So yeah, again, this is the Easter lily, Lilium longiflorum, and we're just doing a pencil sketch first. And if I was going to just stick with pencil and start shading it, I could do that. And I've got this other fun pencil. It's the half the pressure, twice the speed. It's the Black Wing. It's kind of a fancy pencil with this fancy flat eraser. So, if I was going to do that, I could start to do a little shadowing and like I had here. But I do want us to maybe add some watercolor instead. Tell me in the chat box. I do see you guys chatting. If you have just pencils today or watercolors. But I really do want to show you the inside of this and do a little sketch of that first. And then we can come back to this and shade or watercolor it or both. Let's tear this apart a bit. I'm going to turn this over like this, so that we can see these parts. So I just love doing this. And so we got our leaves here. And now it's much more easy to see this long stem of the individual flower. That name is the peduncle. And then we can see this one, they're kind of attached a bit. And the sepals don't have as much of a ridge as the petals, and it is a little challenging to get these. It's kind of attached. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. Let's just make a cross section, and I've got these nice sharp forceps. There we go. So now we see there are 6 petals all together. Tepals. So what we have here is the peduncle, or stem, basically, of this individual flower. And then we have the 6 tepals. 6 tepals. I think I'd rather call them peoples for petals and tepals, or petals, but they're tepals. So that's where the sepals and petals look alike. And you can see, again, if you kind of tear them apart, I don't know if you can see this, but the sepals don't have as much of a ridge as this petal does. So it's really, really cool. There's this ridge here along the petal that's a little bit different in structure. I don't know if you can see that. Tell me if you can see that. Hi, Debbie. You said you don't see any of the other comments, but you see me. Great. Okay. Well, the most interesting part here are the anatomical parts. And again, this is much more simple than the bleeding heart I demonstrated last week. And I did put that on my YouTube channel. You can always Google me later, Christine Elder, and find that. But so all the members of the lily family have 6 tepals, and then they have 6 of the male reproductive parts and 1 of the female parts. And so the male parts are always out in a whorl outside, and you see they're already having the pollen. So basically what we have here, if we were to sketch this, is I'm going to just draw this interior part. And so we'll have this long stem of the main part, and that's called the filament. And then we have the anther, and that has all of the pollen grains on it that are starting to fall off. And, oh, I don't have an orange. Oh, yeah, I do. So it's kind of like, here we go with the sort of an orange. And so you see how those are staining the petals, and they can stain your clothes and your hands as well. And so often if you buy, especially a bouquet of these guys, they will have torn off this male anther. So that's there. But I really love it when they just leave them. So again, there's going to be 6 of these stamens, they're called, which is the whole male part. So there's going to be 6 stamens. Can you see that? Oh yeah, you can see that. And then on the inside is the female part. So if I was to remove all these guys, it's kind of fun to dissect these. And of course, it's not as gross and messy as dissecting a, insect or a mammal. We used to have to do that back in the day when I was in college. We had to dissect sharks and pigs, and it was terrible. I don't think they do that in schools anymore. We had to dissect frogs. Now, when you're drawing something to help you identify it, it's important to think about that some parts could be missing. My petals may have fallen off, like this time of year. We've got all the beautiful cherry blossoms. And those fall off. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we only have 5 of these right now. So that could have fallen off, or that could have been a genetic anomaly, because again, these are cultivated varieties. And so, yeah, let's see. So Cece was asking, what's the pencil I was using? Well, first I was just using the simple mechanical pencil that, they're really easy to, get more pencil lead, and they stay sharp in the field. But then I just had this other shading pencil, and that's called the Black Wing, kind of a fancy shading pencil. And I am not doing anything fancy with it, but I could, maybe later I might. But anyway, that's a Black Wing. They're pretty expensive and fancy. I just thought I'd get one to see what it does. Okay, so anyway, back now to the female part. That's always the center part. And in some flowers, there's more than one of these. But in this flower, there's only one. And so we will also take this apart here with my very sharp forceps. And oh yeah, there's the 6th there's the 6th stamen. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, here we have the female. part. And what we have first is the part that will become the fruit. And there's actually some kind of ridges on it, I noticed, that you probably can't see. So that's the part that's going to actually become the fruit. But then there's this long kind of stem. And then there's the part that accepts the pollen. And I don't know if you can see this. There we go. And it's got 3 sort of lobes to it. Those actually go to 3 separate areas. There's kind of like 3 ovaries, kind of like in a human when they're pregnant, kind of like 3 embryo areas. So that's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to show. Again, you're seeing a different angle than I am. But that's where the grains are going to fall, the pollen grains. So that's called the stigma. You know, I used to be a high school science teacher, so I can't help naming all these things. Stigma, style, that's the long sort of stem that's sort of analogous to the filament of the male part. And then there's the ovary. So these pollen grains have to be carried by a pollinator, or sometimes they can self-pollinate, and they have to get on this stigma. And often these stigmas are quite sticky, and you can see that can you see this? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice and clear. You can see that the pollen grains are sticking to the female stigma. Isn't that cool? And so those will actually grow down this long style and fertilize the ovary and create the fruit and the seeds. Now, I just happen to have this, which is a fruit of a native lily. It's in the same genus. I mentioned some of those earlier, like the Western lily, Cascades lily, tiger lily. So you can see it's 3 parts, but each of those parts are kind of in 2 sections. And inside of there's going to be a bunch of seeds. These fell out a long time ago, but they're kind of flat and brown. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? So we dissected that, took it all apart. Yeah, you see, it's very interesting, I think, how the sepals don't have this big ridge as the petals do. There's this raised ridge that I think is really cool. Okay, so who's ready to do some painting? I don't know if I can see your comments. Let's see. Trying to see. I don't see the comments. Oh, yeah, I see a couple of comments. Yeah. So I don't know if you're ready. So, yeah. Okay, that's everything torn apart there. And again, I'd love to know in the comments, I do see some of your comments, whether whether you have a native one. So yeah, when you're observing, it's good to have paper, some pencils, maybe some colored pencils. And I love these Derwent Color Softs, but it just depends. I have a lot of favorite pencils. And of course, I love to have a magnifying glass so that I could look at this fun stuff up close. And this was actually my grandfather's. That's why it looks so old and it has a real wooden handle compared to the plastic ones they have now. And then to watercolor it, I think I will add just a little color. Let's see. I've got my handy dandy watercolor set. This is just a simple one I use out in the field. And I will use this spray, little spray bottle. It's kind of like a perfume spray bottle. I can't find the lid, but what I do is I will spray the paint, especially maybe just spray the colors I'm going to use so I don't make too much of a mess. And let's see if you can see that. Okay. And yeah, I hate to dissect another flower. I mean, I hate to pull off another flower from my plant, so I think I'm not gonna. I think we're just gonna sort of draw what we see here and paint. And again, you probably don't have paints. Now, I can use a brush. These water brushes come in a few different sizes. This one is actually pretty small. I think my set of paints or brushes are in the car because I like to keep them handy for travel because I do most of my sketches nowadays in the field. I am trained as a scientific illustrator, but I really do like to do things mostly in the field. So anyway, even though we've kind of torn this apart, we can still see some of the colors. And I'm just going to start up here. And let's see. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I'm a little bit behind here. Yeah. And so these are filled with water, and you can squeeze them to add more water, but I usually like to do a very dry brush technique. So it doesn't wrinkle the paper and it dries quickly, especially if I'm out in the field. And then I usually put a little, kind of a part of a sock on my hand so that I can clean and dry the brush. This is one of my favorite socks. These are magnificent frigate birds. This was socks I got in the Galapagos Islands, but they got lots of holes in them because I loved them and wore them so much, and I didn't want to waste them, so I kept them for one of these wrist socks. So that's a great way to clean and dry your brush, especially between colors. And yeah, again, I don't know anybody else is commenting. Let me click here. Yeah, I don't see. It's funny because I see it on my phone where I'm live, but I don't see it on the actual Facebook page. No worries. I'm going to make a green here. And so we can either use one of my greens I already have here. I've got yellower and bluer greens, or I can make my own green with this yellow and blue over here. But again, when I'm in the field, I get kind of lazy and I just want to do something quickly. And I can just kind of match here. And oh, that's another thing I usually do is sometimes I'll have these little things that I make with different size holes in them. They're what I call my viewfinders. And I will set that on top of a structure like that. And that'll help me to match the color. Because often when we're painting watercolors especially, we're going to do them too pale. So if I took this, let me see, and I'll just paint right next to that. Oh, that matches almost exactly. I'm really lucky because there are so many greens in nature. Now, watercolors do dry lighter than they go on wet, but I think that's pretty close, don't you think? Yeah. Cece says, great tip. Thank you. Great. Not sure which tip, but that's fine. So yeah. And these actually have some veins in them. They're really raised on this side. And there's a whole bunch of them. Some of them are bigger, like this mid vein. And then some are smaller and some are even smaller. And they all run parallel. And that's another characteristic of the lily family. Is they have parallel veins that connect at the base and then they connect at the tip again. So yeah, so I am lucky that that is pretty much the exact color I want to use. And let's see. But the stem is a little bit lighter. So I could always just add a little bit of this here. And just to differentiate them. So I've got a little bit more of a yellowish green stem. And then I've got a cooler bluish stem. I mean, petal. I mean, leaf. Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, I don't want a big pile of paint sitting here right now. There's too much. And so I will just spread it out. And again, I can dry my brush and just get some thicker paint on here. And this is the part that sort of overlapped originally, so it might be a little bit shadier right there. But yeah, we don't want too much sitting here. Again, especially if we're in the field. Alrighty. And, you know, sometimes watercolor is nice to do layers, like a layer of yellow and then a layer of blue to make our green. But again, I like to just do quick field techniques, something that I might do if I was, you know, at a botanical garden. And this is in the wrong place because it's in the way of my wrist. It's really nice to have a stable place to put your hand. Okay, like that. All righty. And so then we've got the flower, and again, I don't want to ruin another whole flower, but here's the whole plant again. So let me show you. Oh, this is funny. So these start out with a lot of kind of chlorophyll in them and pretty green, especially the outer sepals. It's kind of a yellowish green, and then it fades out at the edge. And then as they get older, they lose that and they become a lot whiter, but they do start out a little bit more greenish and have something. And it is challenging if you're drawing on white paper, but very few things in nature are actually white. And again, if I put this here next to this, and I can always use another one. I make a ton of these. That is not bright white. And so it's even maybe a little bit grayish. And on the outside, it's a little bit yellowish. That's actually what we're drawing, isn't it? We want to draw this outer look. Oh, wait, I forgot. I never did put that other light on. Phew. So anyway, so I would clean my brush, and again, I can just squeeze some of that green paint onto here so that I clean it, you know, or I could be, you know, traveling with a bit of paper towels, you know. Again, if I'm in the field, I might have these that I collected maybe from a lunch. I don't ever waste napkins, and I might have it here. So I'll mainly clean that, but there is some greenish yellow in these tepals, right? And so I want to be really subtle with this. I could even, well, here's this yellow. I could even use this. Let's see. I want to just make this super subtle, very thin. I might even add, maybe a little bit of that. Gonna just use, it's gonna be really thin. And again, I can just do a little bit here and try to match it. That's still a little bit too much color, I think, but that's okay. I can add more. I'm going to be really careful being next to this wet green leaf. There we go. Okay. So, and yeah. And then this upturned one is going to have some shadow on it later. I think I'll just do all of them just really quick. all together, and then we can add some shadow. So again, if you just joined us, we're celebrating Easter with the Easter lily, which are grown primarily in northwestern United States, very close to where I live here in Southern Oregon. Probably only about 50 miles away is the Easter lily capital. And maybe just a little bit more greenish yellow up here. Again, if I get too much, I can kind of clean my brush and pull it down. There we go. And then, yeah, we want to add some shadow. This is kind of a purpley shadow and shadow here too. So I might take some of my neutral tint here, really thin, and add that. And it's going to be over here too, but that's going to be a little bit different value that we can separate later. And yeah, and maybe just a little bit. We're just going to add a little bit of shadow on these edges where we're separating the sepals and petals. Again, they call these tepals when the sepals and petals look very similar. All right, and then this other one might be a bit darker. Let me see if it's too soon to add that. It might bleed. Okay, how are we doing here? Okay. So yeah, we're just kind of having fun. We're not trying to do a formal, botanical illustration. Those are created over hours and hours. Sometimes I like to try to add the actual pigments from the plant. And I don't know, it's a little bit too late to do that. I just thought of that. But you can kind of make some of your own paint by, like, let's see if we can just add some of this. What happens there? We can just add a little bit of that for fun. So that's, a lot of the original pigments, when people were first beginning to paint in the Stone Age and then in the medieval times, a lot of paints, well, all paints came from animal, mineral, or vegetable. And so there were a lot of plant colors that came from plants, like rose madder made a beautiful pink like this. And then, of course, lots of paints came from minerals, like aquamarine and ultramarine. And then some pigments came from plants, like the cochineal insect, which made a very beautiful reddish purple. I think that might still be harvested. Those cochineal insects live on prickly pear cactuses in Mexico. And those are squished and made this beautiful purple color. Okay, let's see. How we doing? So, we could always go back and add some more, or to make this separated from the paper more, you could always put something around it. If you wanted to make a little bit of like blue sky. Let me see. Can we make any blue sky here? Because it's nice to separate this. Now, a lot of times I will travel with toned paper that's like a sand color, and then I will use white and black charcoals on that, and that's kind of fun to paint or draw white things on the toned paper. but I could just make a little bit of sky blue if I wanted to, and put that in the background. If I wanted to separate this. Now, this is a very tiny brush for this job. I need my other brush, which again I think is in the car, because I keep my sketch stuff in the car, so I'll always have it when I'm out in the field. I didn't have it the other day when I was hiking, though. I was hiking with a group, so they wouldn't have stopped for me anyway, but there's amazing wildflowers right now, and you may have been seeing some of the flowers I've been posting on my personal Facebook page. And tons of wildflowers right now, including lots of things that are related to these guys, natives. So that's kind of subtle. That's kind of nice. And if I wanted to, I could, you know, just go wet in wet here and, you know, add maybe some touches of green here and there, as if this was like, oh no, I probably messed it up. As if you're kind of seeing some, you know, vegetation in the background, maybe. Who knows? You know, it's not the easiest thing to talk and draw and paint at the same time. So I'm never as good when I'm doing these live, but it's more fun to do live, because it is hard to be in your right drawing art brain and your left talking brain at the same time. But anyway, you could go and do that. Okay, so I don't see any other comments. I'm not sure how to see more comments. I think Cece's was the last comment. All righty. All righty. So how we doing? So yeah, with this leaf, I think I went a little bit overboard. And sometimes you can lift color. It's a little bit muddy, I'm feeling, and maybe a little bit overpowering. So I could always kind of use a clean brush and just lift some of that color if I want to, because, you know, the real star of this is supposed to be the lily. And so, yeah, this green I used was actually a pretty opaque green. So I think that looks a little bit better, just to lift a little bit of that color. Okay, there we go. So I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about Easter lilies. And again, these are in the same Lilium genus as a lot of natives in North America. Like the Humboldt lily, a Cascade lily, and the tiger lilies that come in yellows and oranges and sometimes whites. So I hope this inspires you to get one of these Easter lilies, maybe dissect it like we did today, like that. And kids love doing this. You know, you might have some kids around, especially for the holiday, if it's a 3-day holiday. They love painting and drawing and dissecting stuff. And so I always encourage my viewers to get the kids involved, because, you know, those are the generations that are going to take over this world after us. And if we don't inspire them to love and appreciate and notice nature, then we are screwed. So it's always really wonderful and entertaining to encourage kids to draw and paint and observe the natural world. Okay, well, thanks for joining me today, and have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful Easter. Take care. Bye.